Good afternoon, TaxBots. I'm Justin Spicer from the Ohio State Legal Services Association, and I'm here with Megan Sullivan, Managing Attorney with the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, Paul Bryson, Staff Attorney at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, and Luke Mine, Senior Attorney with the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic at Southeastern Ohio Legal Services. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ohio Business Gateway, as well as sales and use tax for people who are self-employed. Feel free to leave a comment or a question, and we'll answer whatever we can. Paul, welcome to today's Facebook Live. We're excited to have you with us to talk about the Ohio Business Gateway, as well as sales and use tax. Do you want to introduce yourself before we kick off the session?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I am with the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, but support the program in small business and nonprofit work. So I help small business owners who are income qualifying for our services, and I also help nonprofits, their founders, their boards, with all their transactional kind of legal questions, buying property, commercial leases, employee handbooks, all of those huge number of minutia that people are dealing with all the time that they need to call a lawyer about in business or nonprofit spheres.
Great, thanks for the introduction. So Luke, what are we going to be talking about in today's session?
So as we've already said, we're going to be talking about the Ohio Business Gateway, which you can access at gateway.ohio.gov. Ohio describes the Gateway as their one-stop online shop for business tax filings. And we're also going to talk about Ohio's sales and use tax. So taxpayers will use the Gateway to file a sales and use tax return and pay any sales or use tax they may owe. Other services are also available on the Gateway.
So as I know you know, Paul, because you're a certified tax bot, we've done lots of these tax chat sessions, but we haven't had a chance to talk about sales and use tax yet. So what is the sales and use tax, Paul?
So sales and use tax is something that you interact with every day as a consumer, but if you're starting in your business and you haven't collected it before, may sound new. You've got to pay in Ohio a sales and use tax on the sale, lease, rental of any personal property that you can touch or see or measure, anything real. So for example, artwork that you sell on Etsy is subject to sales tax, but services like lawn mowing aren't, if the total annual sales of the service are less than $5,000. So the kid in the neighborhood is not collecting sales tax probably. Food is not subject to sales tax unless it's sold to be eaten at the place where it's being sold. So that's why you'll see your $1.99 item be more if you eat in than if you dine out. The Ohio sales tax statewide is 5.75%, but counties can charge additional sales and use tax. Here in Franklin County, where I'm at in Columbus, the sales tax rate is an additional 1.25%. So when I go buy something, the sales and use tax that I'm paying, that the business is collecting, is going to be a total of 7%. And so that's what I'm seeing at the register.
Right. Okay, so Megan, who pays the sales tax?
Well, the customers of a business are really paying the sales tax. The business collects the sales tax from customers by adding it on as a separate charge on top of the price of their purchase, like Paul was talking about. And then the business keeps the sales tax they've collected from the customers and pays it directly over to the government when they file their tax returns.
So Paul, what's required before business can collect and pay that required tax?
A business is going to need to register for a vendor's license with the state of Ohio so that they can collect in sales and use tax. Back in the old days, you would have gotten this from your county government. These days, you're going to be getting it through the Ohio Business Gateway. And the Ohio Business Gateway is going to end up charging you a $25 fee for the license.
So Luke, how does someone register for an Ohio Business Gateway account?
So like we've mentioned earlier, you can access the Gateway at gateway.ohio.gov. Once you're on the website, you'll be prompted to log in to your Ohio ID account, which is Ohio's statewide secure account that they use across different state of Ohio websites and agencies. And if you do not have an Ohio ID account, you'll need to create one. And so when you do that, again, you'll go onto the gateway and click log in. You'll then be prompted to either log in or create your account. If you do not have an account, you'll need to enter and confirm your email address. And in that confirmation email, they'll send you a PIN number. You'll need to write down that PIN number because you'll need it before you can go forward. Once you confirm your email, the system will then ask for some personal information. That includes your first and last name, date of birth, and last 4 digits of your social security number. After that, you'll pick a username and create a password. Finally, the system will have you confirm how you'd like to recover your account if you're locked out. Once you've completed all those steps, you'll confirm you're not a robot and agree to the terms and conditions. Justin will drop a link in the comments with a handout about creating a new Ohio ID account in case you have any additional questions.
Absolutely. Great. All right, so Paul, how does a business owner calculate their sales and use tax?
Well, really what they're going to do is they're going to plug in the amount of the sales and use tax into their point of sale system, and it's going to auto-calculate. But so that you know how it's really going to work behind the scenes, it's going to be multiplication. You multiply the taxable sale by the tax rate in the place where the sale happened. So let's say it's a bike shop in Columbus. The bike is going to sell for $100. And as we talked about earlier, the sales and use tax rate here in Franklin County and Columbus is a total of 7%. So it's going to be multiplying 100 by 7%, which for those of you who use calculators, it's going to be by 0.07 to get the sales and use tax rate. So the taxpayer will need to collect $7 additional from the customer for each sale that they're making on that bike. So the customer is going to be paying $107, 7 of which is going to be that sales tax.
So Megan, what does the business do with the collected sales and use tax? Do they just keep it?
No, any of that tax collected from the customer belongs to the state of Ohio. And by law, it's the business owner's responsibility to account for the taxes they collect and then pay it over. Not doing this can lead to a lot of penalties and fees.
Okay, so Luke, now that we've talked about how business owners collect sales and use tax, how does a business owner then report and pay their sales and use tax?
So first, the owner has to report the required sales information to the Ohio Business Gateway. The state of Ohio has created several spreadsheet templates to help taxpayers input their sales data, and the templates can be found on the Department of Taxation's website. Justin will also drop a link in the comments for you to find the templates. Basically, you're reporting the county in which the sale happened, the sale amount, and the amount of sales tax collected. After the return is filed, the business owner will pay the collected tax dollars, if any, to the Department of Taxation. No matter how many sales you make, every business owner must file an Ohio sales and use tax return. So even if you collected no sales tax, you still need to file what we call a zero return with the Ohio Business Gateway. Not filing a zero return can lead to penalties and interest charges. If you do owe sales and use tax, you can pay it using a debit or credit card, an electronic check, or a paper check.
So Paul, when does a business owner file their sales and use tax return and pay the sales and use tax?
The good thing is the Ohio Department of Taxation will let you know how frequently you're supposed to do this. There is going to be a sales and use tax return that you have to file either monthly or semi-annually every 6 months. So generally, the due date is going to be the 23rd day of the month for the reporting period. If that's a holiday or a weekend, it's going to be the next business day. So for example, let's say your semi-annual reporting in March and September, March 23rd, September 23rd. But September 23rd was a Saturday, so the due date would have been Monday, September 25th. And the way that works is you file the tax return that says how much money you owe the government to do that, and you make the payment to them at the same time through the same system. So at least they keep it convenient that way.
So Megan, when a business goes out of business, does the owner need to do anything on the gateway?
Yes, the business owner must close the books with the Ohio Department of Taxation by filing a final sales tax return. If you didn't collect any sales or use tax that year, you can just check the cancel account box about halfway down the page to close your sales and use tax. Not doing this may result in the state of Ohio sending you a letter to tell you that you have a balance due on sales and use tax. The tax will be based on your estimated sales from when you registered your vendor's license or your last filed sales tax return.
So if someone gets a letter about owing sales tax for years after they stopped doing business, in other words, years where they had no sales, is there anything they can do to reduce that tax?
Yes, they can send a notarized letter to the Ohio Attorney General that cancels their vendor's license for the years they had no sales. The letter should include the vendor's license, the vendor license number, the name of the business owner or name of the person on the business license, and the actual last day of operation, including the month, day, and year.
Awesome, great information as always. Thank you, Megan, Paul, and Luke. And thanks again to Paul for joining us for today's session. We appreciate it. Join us next time when we talk about Ohio's new tax e-services. We'll be doing that session on October 27th at 2 p.m. As always, you can find this segment and all the other segments in our Tax Chat series on our Facebook page. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time.